All right, my name is John Martin. I'm a trial lawyer with the KJC Law Firm here in Boston and Worcester. Today is April 6th, 2020. With me is Ryan Bonesio. Ryan, what do you do for work?
I'm a travel nurse with Smarter Healthcare Partners, and right now I'm traveling in the emergency department for UConn Health at John Dempsey Hospital in Farmington, Connecticut.
John Dempsey in Farmington, Connecticut.
Yep.
And what department in the hospital do you work in?
I'm in the emergency department.
Okay, but tell us we're seeing a lot of things in the news about what it's like to be in an emergency room today, and what just how busy and chaotic it is. What has your experience been? What's the emergency room like there?
So we haven't seen the typical numbers that like places like New York and the big denser cities have seen. Right now we're preparing for this big influx of corona patients that we could see. But right now it's kind of preparing the calm before the storm, so to speak. We've all been preparing, trying to conserve our supplies and things like that for this upcoming surge that all the doctors have been talking about it. So we're just kind of preparing for that so far.
Yep. What type of numbers are you guys expecting on seeing in the next couple of weeks?
It's kind of hard to say. I mean, if the numbers are anything like what we're seeing in New York, I mean, we're going to be overwhelmed quite quickly, I would think. We do have a big tent outside the emergency department where we're going to treat stable patients with suspected corona type symptoms to kind of fast track them in and out rather than expose possible corona patients to, other hospital patients that aren't necessarily there for corona symptoms.
Okay. Have you treated or have you cared for any patients with COVID-19 as far as you know so far?
Yes.
Okay. And about how many patients have you seen personally?
Personally, I mean, I've only been on the job for 3 days now. My first day on the job, I was actually exposed to a corona patient, and then a week later, I developed COVID-like symptoms, and then I found out on Saturday that I was actually COVID-19 positive.
Okay. So you've actually tested positive for COVID-19?
Yes.
Due to your work exposure? Do you know if you've had any other type of exposure other than work?
Not that I know of. I mean, my wife and I are both nurses, so once, we were told to stay safe, stay home, we basically go to work and come home. So the only place I've been really around it is work. So.
Wow, that's really scary. I'm so sorry to hear that. Have you experienced any symptoms or anything like that so far?
It was actually kind of crazy. They weren't going to test me at work at first because I didn't have any typical corona type symptoms. I had exposure. That was the only reason that I was being tracked at all. I had nausea, vomiting, diarrhea for 2 days, and then they said maybe we should get you tested. And then not even 24 hours later, they told me I was positive.
Really? Now, Senator Michael Moore from several towns in the city of Worcester in Massachusetts is actually presenting a bill today in which they would change the workers' compensation laws to automatically presume that healthcare workers, emergency responders, and other frontline people who are fighting the pandemic would be entitled to a presumption if they contract COVID-19 that the exposure was at work, and then they would get workers' compensation benefits without having to prove that they contracted it at work as opposed to somewhere else. Is that change in the law that the legislature is debating right now, actually as we speak, something that's beneficial or helpful for you and your colleagues?
I mean, I would think so at this point. I mean, people have been throwing around like hazard pay and things like this, and us nurses are kind of simple. A simple thank you goes a long way. So if they could do anything to help us out, if we get the disease or the virus, that helps. I mean, any little bit will help.
Now, a lot of us have been getting our news from home. There are many people who aren't working or who can't work even though they want to be. And the news is looking a little bit bleak about what's coming over the next couple of weeks. I would imagine that even people who are on the front lines like you and dealing with this sort of thing have seen some pretty miraculous or kind of uplifting stories or heroic things by your colleagues or other people. Have you seen anything that's particularly noteworthy that you found was uplifting or inspiring from others?
It's kind of hard to say. I mean, like I said, I've only been on my job 3 days, but the one thing I did find, incredible was that, all the ICU, or not the ICU, but like the the PACU nurses and the OR nurses who are laid off because they're not doing any general surgeries, they're willing to come down to the ICU, the emergency department, to help out. They can't do much, in the way of like patient care because that's not their specialty, but they can do an extra set of hands for when it does get busy. So that's kind of like the preparations that the hospitals are making right now, is they're pooling all their resources from everywhere and trying to hoard all their, supplies. So when and if this surge does come, we'll be more prepared.
So a lot of nurses and doctors are actually volunteering to expose themselves to patients and to COVID patients, even though they don't necessarily have to because it's not their job.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. And how about in your own life with personal sacrifices and things that you and your wife are making? For those of us that are at home or who are not working on the front lines, what types of things could regular people like me do to help show support or basically show you guys some love? What types of stuff can we do to rally around you guys and give you all what you need?
Basically, I know it sounds cliche at this point, but just stay home. Wash your hands, because I was a bit of a skeptic about 4 weeks ago about how deadly and contagious this virus was. But as it started to ramp up speed, I realized that when I was exposed, if I was out and about that whole week before I had symptoms, I could have contaminated half my town. So if everybody kind of thought that way, and that if everybody thought the way that, hey, I'm probably COVID positive, I'm going to stay home. If everybody thought that way, I think the healthcare system would end up being a whole lot better when the surge happens, is what I would say.
Well, I really want to thank you for your time today. I know that you're not feeling well and that your wife's probably not getting much sleep while she's still on the job. So I really appreciate your time today. We're going to post your interview to Facebook and hopefully get a lot of people to show you guys some love and say thank you. And, we really appreciate what you guys are doing. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.